All right, James. Big news concerning defensive tackle Darrell Jackson. So what I'm reading here, Florida State's deep defensive line has been without one of its most powerful weapons. Junior defensive tackle Darrell Jackson had the waiver appeal denied by the NCAA during the preseason. Seminoles have been doing everything they can to force the governing body of college football to reverse the decision, getting state representatives and other political figures around the country involved. Mike Norvell said following Wednesday's practice, postseason will be a possibility for Darrell. Well, no, postseason will be a reality for Darrell as we get to that point. He's working. I'm really proud of him. I think he's getting good work in. He's approaching every day the way we want him to approach it. He's getting better and better, et cetera, et cetera. The most likely possibility is that Jackson is eligible to suit up for Florida State's bowl game or a potential playoff run. The university will conclude the fall semester on December 15th, et cetera, et cetera. ACC championship game on December 2nd.
That'd be a good thing. Could have used them. Could have used them for this month of September right here. With creating pressure and continue to belly the pocket when we play against these scrambling guys. But what I believe in the rule is it's news because we're saying it, but like when guys early enroll, in theory, they can play in that bowl game because you're in it as long as you're in another semester. You're not technically in that season. They've been able to practice for years, and people have been doing stuff. So it's technically, I guess the postseason also isn't under NCAA. So like one of my jokes was, what if Florida State just said bump it, and we just played them and went undefeated? Technically, the committee could still say we can play in the college football playoff. So it'd be something on the outside, but it would be unprecedented if one could say. But I think it would be great. Added depth, a guy who'd be fresh, who'd been practicing. I always tell people game reps are way different than practice reps, but I think it would be somebody that it definitely would be added depth at a time when you probably could use it. You need every advantage you can get when it comes to the late season play. And if Florida State is in position to stay healthy and continue to win these games that they should be favored in every week as the season goes on, and they do what they're supposed to do, Florida State definitely could use that. And it could be the secret to success if they do get a chance to play in the college football playoff.
So I just want to clarify something, James, that's probably never going to come up, and something I should have known, and I believe I did know at some point. So, for example, early enrollees come in. Let's say they get done with high school December 10th, whatever the date. Bowl practice ensues. They step on campus, and like a lot of them, they practice during the bowl session. Obviously, no head coach is going to utilize them because they just joined the team. But let's say, somebody's a phenom and they learn a couple plays, and then a certain situation, a coach wants to use them. They are eligible because that is a new calendar year.
Yeah. So that's basically kind of it's what's funny about all of these things, a lot of this stuff is like they're rules that have been in place for years. Just nobody's ever utilized them because you've never had to. Like nobody thinks about transfer. Like typically in past years, you've had transfers be like your JUCO players or your transfer be your JUCO players, or they'll be like again a regular transfer, but they had to sit out a year. But now we're early with the one transfer rule, and also with the NCAA calendar coming into effect. When one thing ends, technically again you're not in the regular season, and the NCAA is the governing body for the rules, but their rules are typically for the regular season. So it's a loophole. It's a loop. I remember when the grad transfer was the loophole that had been in there for years that nobody had really been utilizing. I remember when it's just funny to see how some of these things are kind of coming to fruition, and it's kind of dope. But I think it's stupid still that the NCAA has the behavior of the NCAA in the last 4 to 5 years is why I've always not liked them, but why I'm no longer for there needs to be a governing body, but the NCAA's not even laissez-faire attitude. It's really a temper tantrum. The Power Five conferences went to them a few years ago and said, we want to start paying athletes in some manner, way, shape, or form. We want you to have it. NIL came into function, and instead of them using the rules that they already had, they kind of just said, hey, it's hands off. Do whatever you want to do. See you fail and then come back. Then they went, now you're losing more control. You go to Congress. You're saying, Congress, we need you to create rules for a governing body so that we can follow. And Congress basically said, you want us to do your job. That's not right. And when Congress, it's just a lot of passing the buck. And instead of creating rules, or excuse me, following your rules that you already have, and then secondly, realizing that some of these guys signed up before you made the new rules. They're still in it for the new rules. But literally before you made those, they came under that. And to hold somebody accountable for new rules that they didn't even know, I think is just it's not being the adult in the situation. And I'm not just talking about for Darrell Jackson. The wide receiver from North Carolina, he's getting the shaft. The quarterback for, I believe, Miami of Ohio, who literally got told nationally that I'm bringing in my son to become the starting quarterback at Colorado. Worked out. That's fine. But what is that kid supposed to do in that situation? I think we should be able to have some common sense laws, but common sense ain't as common as everybody thinks.
It's not. And from my vantage point, the NCAA, within their role description, is the term leadership in there somewhere. There's supposed to be leadership. And to me, they have become, and maybe they've never been a leader, not in the years that I've been covering and following the sport, have they been a true leadership group. They've been a disciplinary group. That's what they are. They focus on discipline, but they're not leading. Leading was required through all this, as you just mentioned, through all this NIL activity and through this transition. That leadership was needed. Transfer portal leadership needed. There's been a lot of things that have needed leadership. This realignment and all this craziness going on. Leadership has been required there. Basically, what the NCAA has been doing for decades is been getting tips and hints of infractions and then following up. And sure, that's a part of what their role should be, but that's all they've basically contributed to the sport, is following up on tips and leads from schools, typically telling on other schools and then following through with discipline. And sometimes it's been the right discipline or it's been reasonable, and other times it's been ridiculous. But that's all they've kind of morphed into, is a disciplinary group.
Yeah, and that's just when all you are is a disciplinarian, you're going to always be viewed as evil. Like, you got to hug somebody. You got to hug the kids sometimes too, man. You got to give them. You can't just come in and spank them every time when you get off of work after a long day. You got to be able to give them. You got to be able to hug up on them and love them a little bit. But it is what it is. But I do think at the end of the day, it may end up coming into FSU's favor, because again, they were able to get out of this really rough stretch of September, and now they're looking at, again, it's not as easy as we once thought, but it's still nowhere near as tough the road as we thought September would be. But you got Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, and Virginia Tech within this month of October. That should be a much easier quest when you look at it game by game.